everybody, and welcome to the Metal Magdalene with Jet right here on Metal Messiah Radio. Now, Possessed have a new, long-awaited album coming out in May called Revelations of Oblivion. Their first full-length album in over 30 years. And tonight, I'm honored to have back on the show the legendary Jeff Becerra of Possessed to talk about the band and the new album. Welcome back to the show, Jeff.
DJ, Jet, what's up? Thank you, man. It's good to be back. It's been, since the 23rd of 2013, man.
Isn't that funny? To the date.
It's our anniversary. That's
our anniversary. Yeah, happy anniversary.
Yeah, happy metal anniversary interview, DJ Jet. That's Jeff Becerra Day.
So, Jeff, going way, way back. So we're just going to give a little bit of background to just in case somebody doesn't know about Possessed. Way back, when you were a teenager, who were some of the bands that influenced you, that you looked up to, that made you want to pick up a guitar and start playing music?
You mean besides the Almighty Lord Satan?
Besides that.
I like stuff like, we listen to a lot of UFO, Blue Oyster Cult, even bands way back Aerosmith and Black Sabbath, of course, and Gamma, Ronnie Montrose. Mm-hmm. I actually took bass lessons from Glenn Letts from Gamma.
Oh, cool.
And he was from back east too. Sammy Hagar would drop by and shit. It was really cool. Those old school fucking rock, hardcore bands like Mahogany Rush and fucking The Real Rush and The Second Rush and Frank Marino and bands like YNT and old Def Leppard and just fucking rock and roll in general. And of course, even before that, I used to just go through my dad's 45s and listen to Elvis and fucking blues and rockabilly and the heart of rock and roll and Jerry Lee Lewis, Fats Domino and Chubby Checkers and all that cool shit. Mm-hmm. So I guess my family, because my parents are musicians, was steeped in blues, rock, that whole mysticism of Robert Johnson selling his soul to the devil type thing. Mm-hmm. And later on, when we got the Sabbath and everything like that, and with the Catholic background and the whole kind of you learn a lot about the devil being a Catholic, even and something through the Bible, and it just all kind of came to it just was the perfect storm, I guess, so.
And so then tell us about, how you got the gig with Possessed.
I was in a band called Blizzard with Larry, which we started around 1979. And because I think it's important for people to know that Possessed in many ways is, it was more than 50% from my old band, Blizzard. Mm-hmm. So, because with me doing double duty on bass and vocals, and Larry playing all the rhythms on the albums plus his solos, I was in a band with Larry since '79. We started Blizzard, and which has kind of a tragic history. We had a bunch of people. Let me see, three people from that band have died. But me and Mike Miner, who later went on to Blind Illusion, and Larry Lalonde, most notably, were the kind of the heart and lungs of that band. And then as we grew older, Debbie Bono, we played a cake party, and these girls showed up, these two Bong girls, pre-Bong girls, who turned out to be Gina and Julia Bono. Mm-hmm. They invited us up to their mom's house in Pinole. Subsequently, we met Debbie Bono. She started managing Blizzard. And then we had our band room up, which was up at the Blizzard, later to become the Possessed Mansion. And so we were jamming, but as I was listening to a lot of Venom and Motorhead and Merciful Fate and Exodus, and I was wanting to go heavier and heavier, but at that time, Larry and the rest of the guys were pulling in a polar opposite direction. They were going to a lot of Dead shows, Grateful Dead shows, listened to a lot of Frank Zappa. They were dropping acid and that whole fucking, I don't do acid, like dropping acid. I mean, I've done it before, but it's not my thing. I'd rather be, at that time I was pulling more like a freight train, wanted to go faster. And so they started hanging out with some older kids, and eventually, they pulled one way, I pulled the other, and I got kicked out. They kicked me out. They made a big deal of it. This is our Blizzard band room, and so leave all your shit, leave all your equipment, because Debbie bought that, and you're out of the band. So I was like, so then literally, within a week's time, I was down at the high school, and the two mics approached me and said, "Hey, Jeff Becerra." I was like, "Yeah, what up?" Like, I was with my chick, who later became Miss Bikini, Pennsylvania. It's just as a fun fact.
Oh, cool.
But she, I thought they were gonna come fuck with me, but they were like, "Hey, did you play bass?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Hey, can you come check this out?" And so I went over there, and we immediately. That's when Possessed was formed. That when we came over, we agreed and we started Possessed. So then we had another guitarist, Brian Montana. So a lot of people don't know that Possessed. They're always saying that's not the original lineup. Even before Seven Churches, we switched lineups. So we had Brian Montana for a while, but then Revenge is always on my mind. It was like a chess game. It was like a chess move. Mike and Brian didn't get along. I liked Brian a lot, but Mike Trio didn't like him, hated him, and he wanted to kick him out. So what I did is I kind of just pretended like I wanted to keep Brian in order to get some leverage to go back and get Larry. And so finally I agreed, okay, we can kick out Brian, but only if we go get Larry. And so when I went back and acquired Larry Lalonde and Debbie Abono together because Larry was dating Debbie's daughter, Julie, and they kind of came as a unit, right? So then when I did that, by that time we'd already done the demo, the Metal Magdalene 6, we got signed on Combat, so Possessed had a lot to bring to the table, much more than Blizzard. And so I spoke with Debbie, got Larry on the condition that he would grow his hair and take care of his and take some lessons, clean it up. And then I made a big point of going into breaking up the Blizzard rehearsal and saying, this is the Possessed band room now, leave the shit and get the fuck out. So I got my old guitarist Larry back, and got the band room and my old manager back all in one chess move. So it was 2 parts Revenge, 1 part heavy. I wanted to go heavier. It was a 3-way win. I got a heavier band, a much heavier band. It's exactly what I was looking for. I kept the band room, kept the manager, and kept my old guitarist. So
nice. So here you're in there playing bass. So what led you from going from playing bass to being the vocalist?
Well, we couldn't find a vocalist.
That'll do.
We didn't look too hard, though, to be honest. I mean, we knew that Lemmy was doing it, and that Kronos was doing it. It was really hip and in vogue for the bass player to sing back in 82, 83. And so I'd sang backups, and like a lot of things in life, you did it through lying and bullshit. They said, "Well, can you sing?" I said, "Fuck yeah, I sing." Of course, I only sang backups, and in the shower, and I fucking don't have a naturally good voice, but I knew what we were looking for. And I just kind of just pulled from that batch of monster movies and punk rock and horror, and just meshed it all together. And kind of like the first time I sang, they were like, "Whoa, like you got to calm that shit down." It was like more like that uber cookie monster kind of lower shit that goes on now. And they were like, "No, it's too much. So the voice that we finally came up with in the end, or I finally kind of channeled, was the Possessed voice for Seven Churches.
And the death metal vocals were born, Jeff.
Yeah, they were. Jeff Metal, huh? No, I'm just kidding.
So, okay, and as we know now, Possessed led...
drums and guitar, and, you still hear a lot of the solo riffs today because, as much as I bag on Mike not being untrained, that means everything he did was completely original. So,
Right.
So it's weird because I can hear a lot of
absolutely. And Possessed legends influencing almost every band really that followed you around the world. You know, even Chuck Schuldiner journeyed out to California to check this out. So tell us a little bit really quick, you know, what was like Chuck Schuldiner's reactions to like getting your first demo and hearing all that?
Well, you know, he wrote a bunch of letters. He was one of the first people to really reach out. He's very humbling. Like, I always thought that Chuck was younger than me. I was like, this kid's always hanging around. He's kind of like, you know, hang around. Well, he was hanging around. And he was like everything was like an interview. Like, everything he asked me, he was gathering data.
Right.
Chuck was very keen on knowing exactly what made death metal. And you know, we went to long discussions about how, you know, we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves in. Like everybody's going to try to like stick you in a category. At that time, the media, the closest thing they knew to Possessed was Slayer, so they would say that's Possessed Slayer clones, even though our music is completely different. It's the trained ear, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was always really ridiculous. But without I digress here. What my discussions with Chuck is like how to expand the genre and make it something whole instead of just part, like a subgenre. You know what I mean? Like, instead of a piece of heavy metal, to make it, you know, something larger and a genre in and of itself. And we kind of went to long diatribes about, you know, riffing and, you know, phraseology and timing. And, you know, we sat on the couch basically, Chuck with guitar in hand, and me with you know, mirror and straw in hand, and talking back and forth, and you know, kicking it, and you know, it was fun. We had a lot of good times, and I considered Chuck, you know, to be a good friend. I wish I would have taken him more seriously, and you know, because when you're a kid, you know, that shit goes right to your head. Like, you just think of him as like a fan or whatever. Right. But looking back on it, the way that he was asking questions and riffing, and he was very intuitive, and he gathered up stuff, and I, you know, I should have snatched him up as a guitarist if I would have fucking known anything. You know what I mean?
Oh well.
But, you know, back then we had Mike and Larry, and so that would have probably been impossible. But I just wish that Chuck was alive today so we could finish that conversation. Yeah. And, you know, maybe do a project. You know? Yeah,
that's awesome too. And so, you know, you guys, 7 churches. Big thing. So what impact did you see 7 churches having on the metal community?
Well, I figured that that a lot of punks would like it. I was hoping that, I mean, obviously I loved it, you know, because it was what we wanted to play, but I remember thinking when we came out of the studio, like, this might not fly at all, you know, because I'm not sure if the world's ready for this, you know?
Right.
And it was very noisy and very heavy and very dark. And so generally what we got was like a 50-50. People either loved it or hated it, you know? Right. But, you know, generally since it was kind of cold, you know, most people still don't know who Possessed is. So it's kind of a new thing, and I think a lot of people are still hearing Possessed for the first time. I mean, even in my own Oakland, we played Oakland the other night, you know, a few months back, and played 3 sold-out shows, 2 back-to-back at the Whiskey, and then one in Oakland, California. And I was like, how many people here have seen Possessed before? And like maybe a quarter of the hands went up. I said, how many people are seeing Possessed for the first time? And this is in my home Bay Area. Like 3/4 of the house, hands shot up. Wow. So, like, it's true, but it's like, Possessed has been one of those bands that, like, struggles in their hometown, you know, but just loved elsewhere. And but I think it's going more and more. Like I said, it was a sold-out show, which is, you know, hasn't happened since the 80s, you know.
And it's a whole new generation now, too. I mean, really, since you wrote the last album.
It is. And, you know, hopefully this will be, you know, a lot more than just passing of the torch. This will, you know, I still have a lot more to say, you know, but I do want to leave something there, in the what is the Possessed lexicon, more than just the 2 albums. So
right.
This will be the 3rd full length, and then of course we have 2 more coming after this.
So Jeff, prior to the breakup stuff, what were some of the early days of Possessed like for all you guys, young whippersnappers?
Well, they were pretty wild. For me, we were very, very saturated with our own music. Like, we practiced 3.5 hours, 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then the time in between that, we would spend practicing, on our own, and just trying to, it was very competitive, you know what I mean? Like, we were struggling to put their 2 cents in, and to get, our phraseology, our methods, our riffing, put into the vibe, and which, we're all hard-headed, teenagers, and I think me and Larry were really tight, but, it was almost like a love-hate relationship, not with Larry, but with the other guys, and, there's always a lot of kind of tension there, but I still consider those guys, I love them and as brothers, and I love them a lot, but it was a very intense time. It felt revolutionary, and it felt like what we were doing was very important, and we were very serious kids,
And then 1990 rolls around, you guys broke up. So what was going on at the time that led to this, and what happened to make you want to start up the band again, Jeff?
Well, I never intended on quitting. The only thing that stopped me was I got shot twice,
That'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it. So, breaks on the career for 17 and a half years. And, but I guess, Larry, like I say, Larry and Mike's relationship was pretty toxic, because Larry's a really mellow guy, and Mike can be very harsh, brash, So somebody like me, I can deal with that, but Larry was kind of timid, and, I always thought, Larry's a pretty tough guy. I bet, he could stand up, but that's just not in his DNA, I guess, and I think he was just kind of unhappy, and like I said, it was kind of toxic, coming from the other side, and Larry, of course, Les Claypool was like a Bay Area legend, and in fact, the same guy who made Les Claypool's, the elephant bass, the pachyderm bass with the whammy bar.
Yep.
He also made my Red Destroyer bass. That's the cousin Danny Maloney. So that it was a small knit community, and so when Les asked Larry to join Blind Illusion, of course, it's super flattering, and that's a lot of upward mobility there. Obviously, Les is going somewhere, and that turned into Primus subsequently. So then, by that time, like I say, Larry was playing all the rhythms and the solos and writing more and more, and becoming really, really pivotal, because, Larry had the training. We had the training. And I hate to say it, but if you go to, if you have training, you go further, and especially these days in the industry, like it's not enough just to be original anymore. You have to know how to play, know how to fucking improvise. You have to do all kinds of shit and blend in like a chameleon on plaid and be a businessman. And so I guess Larry, he's very like a prophet that way. He kind of went with and then the mics just felt like, oh, that's too big of a loss. We'll never recover. And also at the same time, when I came to practice, I was ready to play and we'll just find a new guitarist and move on, because that's what I do. I can make a band. So the one thing I'm good at. So I can put a band together and make it work. But Mike Seuss just said, I just want to be normal. And Mike Trejo said, I just want to be normal. And I know that Mike had his landscaping business with his father, a family business, very lucrative, and what he felt drawn to do, because he's Portuguese and very family oriented, and they just wanted to be normal. And Mike Seuss wanted to go back and finish at SFSU, which I went to later, but and just finish his degree and just be normal, and like I say, playing in a satanic traveling touring death metal band isn't for everybody. If you want to be normal, it will rip you apart. It will rip your family apart. You can't have that white picket fence when you're gone, fucking 6 months out of the year, or your mind is always in the music, and you have to give it 100%. And so I can totally understand. I've lost a lot of members that way. So since then, you know, where I respect their journey, and you know, I love the guys, but you know, I have to respect their journey, let them go and move on. You know.
So, what have been some of your biggest struggles with Possessed, as well as some of your biggest triumphs?
Struggles is finding the right lineup, the perfect lineup, and me being kind of a perfectionist. That would mean, first of all, that we all get along like brothers, because like I'm not going to do that inward fucking spiral of a band ripping itself apart from inside. You know, I just want to get along first like a family by choice, and also, you know, in order to be in modern day, today's Possessed, you have to learn, you have to know how to fucking play. You have to know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that went through some intensive tryouts. I mean, I kept Emilio as the core of the foundation from when we started out with Sadistic Vacuuming.
Mm-hmm.
Then whenever I really just started focusing on the music and getting the real Possessed back together, working up to new songs and puts into a new album, I kept Emilio, who was, you know, he's just the talent. Like, he was he's a great drummer. And then we held open tryouts for guitars. And luckily, I knew this girl named Lindsay Turnbull, and what we were getting in the tryout phases were people that literally knew like the rhythm or part of the rhythm to a few songs and didn't play solos, and they essentially just wanted to meet me. and so that was, you know, of course, you know, it's flattering and all, but you know, when you're looking for guitarists, it gets really frustrating.
Right.
And then I was talking on, I don't know if you know Lindsay Turnbull, but she's on Facebook, my friend's sister, and she's like, well, my boyfriend Dan plays a hell of a guitarist. I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, oh, fuck, I've heard that. Like, bullshit. And, like, my bullshit alarms were going off, and that's how I know you can't trust it. But then she's like, no, you'd be a perfect fit. And so I said, okay, you know, I was kind of a favor to her. I flew Dan out. Dan knew like 18 songs.
Wow.
And for the first note that Dan played, he was better than any previous Possessed guitarist.
Nice.
And I was like, fuck, like, just trying to hold it together and not seem too desperate, you know. Got charms. You know, the way we work is you start out, you know, low, and then you know, after 4 or 5 shows, then we bring you up to speed, right, you know. And Dan went through the tests and trials and tribulations and just fucking was amazing. Plus, he's a producer and an engineer, and just really together, like, super techy, you know. And then we were using Tony Campos on bass from Static X, and I love Tony. He's a great bass player, but when he got the full part position with Soulfly, we looked around, and Robert Cardenas had always been hanging on the fringes. I don't know why he didn't jump in earlier, but I think because we had Tony. And you know, and so when Robert jumped in, he showed up to practice like really drunk and high, and I was like, fuck, like, that's disrespectful coming to fucking trials with a fucking tall boy in your hand, you know, smoking a doop. And then when he played everything perfect. I was like, dude, if he could play this well fucked up, you know, imagine so, right? And to me, because I'm not a judgmental guy, right? You know, like, I don't give a fuck what people do, as long as they can play. But us, you know, we set terms and said, okay, no more drinking or smoking before shows, and everybody kind of just toed the line, and you know, and then we went through a couple of different guitarists. We went through Kelly McLaughlin, we went through Mike Party, and you know, again, they wanted to live normal lives at that time. Mike wanted to be closer to his girl, and so the normal thing always gets me. I see it over and over. And as much as we love those guys, they you know, you have to respect their journey. And then, so I sent out an email and a bunch of stuff to social media. I probably sent out reach out to at least 30,000 people. And Claudius's name, Claudius Kramer, came back, or Scooby, a.k.a. Scooby, that's his nickname, came back like over 100 times.
Wow.
So I had never even, Claudius says we met before, but I don't remember. I don't remember seeing anything. I just stayed open for us a long time ago. But so I just, somebody gave me Claudius's number, and And I called him, and he said, yeah, I'm available. And I was like, fuck. So we flew him out to L.A., and he was every bit as good as Dan, you know, in rhythms and leads, but in a different way, like in a complimentary way. They're two different animals completely. But I just lucked out. That was the box got bolted and welded shut right there. So I knew this was the true version of Possessed. And, you know, by that time, Clyde's came in, the album was almost completed. Yeah, so.
And there you go.
Yeah.
Brand new album coming out. So what were your thoughts on all of this album stuff after so many years, Jeff?
Well, I mean, of course, a lot of discussions went into, you know, what makes Possessed, and timing and phrasing and melody, but also into, you know, how can we move Possessed forward into to be a band, more of a band of the future as well as a band of the past. You know, we knew it was going to be very challenging because there would be a lot of people that, you know, they want to stick us. Well, the thing with being in a band like Possessed and only making 2 albums is a lot of people want to encapsulate you in a little glass box and say it's immersed, you can't move forward. You know, you're not allowed to move forward. But what they don't realize is, you know, it's my band. I'm going to keep making music. It just took me a long time to get back on track. And so what I'm saying is you have to make old fans and new fans happy. And so it's a delicate balance, which usually comes down to just playing whatever the fuck we want. So, but with respect to both tradition and, you know, what we want Possessed to become, you know.
And you know, you have a new label now for this album in Nuclear Blast. So tell us a little bit about signing with them and what it has enabled you to do as far as recording this album, Jeff.
Well, I mean, Nuclear Blast is the big dream machine. Like, when we originally we didn't intend on getting signed. We just were going to write new music to tour because, you know, we wanted just to entertain, you know. And like I said, we've been touring for 12 years. And then we made this demo. We were like, fuck, this sounds pretty damn good. Let's just throw it out and see if anybody bites, right? Like a little fishing, not expecting much. And immediately, like, we got like 5 offers from different record companies.
Wow.
And I was like, holy shit. Like, people were tripping balls. Like, when they heard No More Room in Hell and stuff like that, they were really tripping. And of course, Nuclear Blast is like the apex predator, you know, of metal labels. And their contract looked the most solid. And of course, we negotiated and finally came to terms. And then they've been really, really cool. Like, a lot of people are under this. It's funny because a lot of people will, you know, these so-called purists, they always do things like, oh, you get on Nuclear Blast, you're going to sound just like cookie cutter like everybody else. That's not how a record company works. The way a record company works is they finance your album. They essentially give you money and say, all right, now go make an album. And you're on your own. You know, of course, they will assist with things like tracking down producers or, you know, like, you know, they have assistants that will book your time or your flights or, you know, so, you know, but generally, like, as exec producer, you know, that means, you know, I'm over 3 or more producers, right? So, like, there's people to help facilitate your needs, but everything creative and as far as sound, that's completely up to you as a band, you know. And so, I just want to kind of set that clear because, you know, I see a lot of these comments that are like, oh, the Nuclear Blast are going to sound just like everybody else. And I'm like, oh, that doesn't even make sense. You know what I mean? You pick your own studio, you pick your producers, you pick your amps, you pick your tones, you pick your songs, you pick everything. Everything, all creative control is left up to the artist. So. And the thing about being signed with Nuclear Blast or a record label is that as opposed to like when you're just touring on your own, right? And you just do an interview here and there. Like they'll have a whole system to where they go region all over the world and be able to do like this interview that they set up today's in Nuclear Blast, right? Which we probably would have done just as friends anyway, but like last time. But what they'll do is there's a whole like set, you know, series of PR campaigns that they'll hit everywhere all over the world. like at close to the same time. And instead of reaching like thousands of people like on Facebook or whatever, or through touring, you'll reach millions.
Right.
You know? And so and now that I know how to do it, it's completely possible, right? Mm-hmm. But they do it in such a good way, you know, and there's, you know, they have so many contacts, and it just helps. It helps to have that backing. And, you know, I know that a lot of people will be like, oh, yeah, this is Jeff selling out or whatever, but who doesn't want to have their fucking music heard by as many people as possible?
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't give a fuck who you are. If you're making an album, you're trying to get it out there, so I'm not going to be anything less than being honest would be posing.
And you know, it's like you said, when you get onto a label that's that big, they could reach out to more people than you really possibly could. You know, they have a whole cruise doing that kind of stuff. And look at the result. As we were talking a little bit before that, your pre-sales are like almost sold out.
Yeah, it's selling like hotcakes. I mean, you know, I think, yeah, I'm sure what's going to happen is if, you know, they made 666 box set, but if that sells out, I'm sure they'll do a different combination and keep on making them. But I think there's going to be a lot of cool, like, different variations of the albums and box sets and good collector's items. And that's another thing I really love Nuclear Blast about. Shameless self-promotion here. and is like, as a collector, like, I like to have a physical product that's fucking cool and different and unique, and they're fucking the kings of that. You know, the boxing and the box sets and the special colored vinyls and you know, all that cool little stuff that's so metal and such a part of the Possessed kind of history. You know, like from the Asian version of Seven Churches on the import, where there were origami, like folding seven churches that you could make together, seven little churches, and CDs and albums. And so, like, Possessed has kind of a history of doing that kind of, like, that grandiose packaging, and, you know, like that shit.
It's fun, yeah. And it's like you said, it's very collectible. Like, I'm sure everybody would love those seven churches now with that origami stuff in it.
Yeah, I know. I wish I wouldn't have folded my churches together.
So Jeff, tell us a little bit about, you know, writing the album musically and lyrically.
You know, I'm a fucking method man. I mean, I'm very method on a lot of. Well, I use just good old fashioned blood, sweat, and tears. I use a lot of method. You know, where like I'll be diving into obscure occultism and shit. You know, trying to summon demons and shit like that, which I think is fun. You know, like you know, it's like dope. Was that the dope? You know. Like a lot of times what I've learned is, especially if I read a lot, like, you know how you're reading, you'll picture shit in your head?
Sure.
Well, then I have like these fantastic nightmares. Like, my nightmares, I have so many demons, like real and imagined, you know, from all the shit I've been through. So I have these fucking terrible nightmares, but I love them. You know, like I'll be down in hell or whatever. And I'll wake up and write those down. Like I have a spiral notebook right next to my bed, pen. I'll wake up and, you know, I'll write them down, like, in fucking, I'll get almost whole songs or whole entire songs or verses or parts just from waking up. Because I tried just waking up going, I'm going to remember that and write it down tomorrow, but then you always forget it.
Right.
So I wake up and, like, I reluctantly jot it down and then look at the next day and I'm like, whoa, that's pretty cool. Like, I can use that. And then also just, like a lot of people, like, they think that, you know, you're just sitting on the back porch or whatever and the clouds part and the fucking beam of light comes down and gives you inspiration. Well, that rarely happens, but you know, there's a touch of that, and mostly just sitting down and fucking just hashing it out, you know, hard work, you know. And with, of course, with guitar, you know, because I wrote about probably a little around half the music, and what I do is I just have a little. It's a little electric guitar that runs on a battery with a built-in speaker. It's called it looks like a peanut. It's called a Fernandes Nomad. You can buy them for like $70, $80 online. And so what I'll do is I'll just turn that switch on so I don't have to plug in or turn on my amp or fuck with tones or anything.
Right.
I'll just turn on real quick. It's just like, just to get the riff down. And then I'll record into the external mic of my laptop, and I'll record a riff, you know, and then put a grouping like a package of 7 to 12 riffs together, and I'll send them over to Dan as an idea for a song, and then Dan, being the master, he will clean it up and sew it together and make it all work. And then start putting it on a 4-track with the drum machine, and then do his solos and the rhythms. Then he'll bring it to Emilio, and they'll mic up a drum set, and they'll replace the electronic drums with real drums. Get Bobby to play bass, send it to Claudius remotely, and he'll pump in his solos, and then lastly, Dan will take a flight down here, and we'll finish the vocals, set up a little studio in my basement, and do the vocals on the demo tape. And that's what we use to do the foundational work of the album. We'll take that, there'll be a hidden click track, and we'll use that as scratch tracks, our foundations for the actual recording of the album later on, and we'll actually trigger effects off the demo, and it's like a pre-album album, you know? So we use it for scratch tracks, and it's all like prep work for the next album. So anything we record will be prepped and ready so that, whenever, for those demo songs at least, like, we don't even have to be there. Like they can do drums first, and since it's already recorded, he can just put it through his headset, play along to the click track, which is kind of on the hidden track, and then delete the old drums. And then the guitars will come in and play rhythms over the existing rhythm and bass, and then delete the pre-existing, the demo rhythms. Like you just replace one part by one part until you have the album.
And were you all pretty satisfied with the final result?
Well, not initially. I'm not going to lie. Like, we were very passionate about it. I think we went through like 17 mixes.
Whoa.
Like, Peter was fucking like hating me by the end because he was passionate and I was passionate, and Peter was super patient, right? And I was like from the first mix to the final mix, I think is night and day. And it would be great if you could just like turn the guitars up, but everything you do affects another thing, and so it's really a difficult tightrope. And so I think, at one point Peter almost quit. At one point I threatened to fire him, and then like literally he's like, if this last mix doesn't work, I fucking quit. And then we did that last mix, and then we did one more, and then we were all happy and loved each other again. But it was very intense because Peter came out of retirement to do this, and it meant just as much as him, and it mattered. And Peter's just a fucking wonderful guy, super patient and super passionate, and was the best pick by far. Nobody else would have bled for Possessed like Peter did. So,
and probably after doing this album, he probably went right back into retirement.
Well, I mean, I know that he fucking must have had a sick hangover because we had a rap party from hell, dude. Like, it lasted all night till like 8 the next morning. Yeah, like, it was fucking ruthless.
So, Jeff, tell us really quick about the cover art and artist.
I call him Z. His name is Biliak, or Biliak. I don't know. I don't speak Polish, but so I just call him Z. And every year we go to Europe, and every year around Poland, this guy would come up to me, and he's short hair. I didn't know who he was, but he always had a calendar that he does every year. And I always remember thinking, like, this dude is super fucking talented. Like, the way he does architecture and buildings, I love that shit because, I like realism, and I like people that show actual talent. I'm not a big abstract person. And although I do love abstract and modern art and all that shit, I like realism, like the masters and stuff. And to me, you're not an artist unless you can make it look real.
Right.
And like his stuff was really, really talented. You could tell that he has solid foundation, real art. And I didn't know who the fuck he was. I didn't know he did the Ghost albums or I don't know, he's Sepultura creator. He's done a bunch of shit, right? But I didn't know that. And after about 3 years of him giving me new calendars and being really persistent, I like the hustle too because I'm the same way. Like the only way Possessed gets anywhere is through hustle.
Right.
You gotta have hustle in this game. So and he was persistent. I said, okay. So I said, he was like, I want to do your next album cover. And so whenever we did get, we remember our conversation, I remember this, and I said, oh, yeah, Z. So we started working up some concepts, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but the original Seven Churches cover that got declined by Combat was very much similar to the concept of this new one. So I wanted to bring that back as kind of a nod to the old yesteryear Possessed, but bring it into like the eighth church, like of the new future of Possessed, and kind of so, both past and present and future together, with this album. And I thought, what way to kind of acknowledge, the days of yesteryear and the debt I owe to the days of old, with also with respect to the new church, and so we started working on this big Gothic kind of cathedral idea and sewing the lyrics within the actual temple and the satanic kind of temple in the midst of the Catholic Church kind of cathedral type idea, and mix that sort of heaven and hell and Revelations type of God against Satan, good against evil, but also with some demonology and real Satanism and sigils to raise up specific demons and hidden lyrics within every stone and turn of the cathedral and the stained glass. And originally I wanted the Possessed logo to be stained glass, but that didn't really work. It was too convoluted and the logo didn't pop as well. So we just did the big, the Gothic stained glass window, which has a scene, in there, and it was just really involved, and it almost didn't work because when it came time for it to be due, it was like we were months and months and months and months overdue with the art. I wasn't happy with it, and I turned it over to the guy who did Slayer's covers, and he made one up, a really nice cover, like in a day and a half. And it was the same kind of concept, but it was just, he pumped it out really quick. But you could tell it wasn't all hand-drawn.
Right.
And so, but he said, give me a week, and I'll clean it up and I'll make it right. And I was like, whatever, I was so frustrated by that time. Sure enough, a week and a half later, he came back, and I was like, oh, okay, good. So then we're still going to use that other one later, but we went back to the original artist, and he saved it by like the skin of his teeth. And I felt like it made me look bad, it made him look bad, because I had put so much faith in like whenever you remember as Jeff Becerra of Possessed, whenever I push for something and it falls through, that comes back on me. It makes me look foolish.
Sure.
So luckily he saved it, and so he's not great on timelines, but he is a great artist. I think it was worth the struggle and the bullshit we had to go through, because in the end the art is fantastic. So
yeah, it does. It looks great. And Jeff, in closing, as you know, we broadcast across the globe. So what would you like to say to all your fans who have stood by you for decades?
Well, of course, they saved my life, man. That's literally like, look, I've been through some dark ass times, and just thousands of letters and the emails and the people that talk with me and about me, and not the haters, but the people that love me and love Possessed and understand and get behind what true California OG death metal is all about. Those people are like that light at the end of the tunnel that got me through the darkest times. Along with my family, of course. Those are the people, our fans and supporters are the people that I literally do this for and owe my life to. And at the end of the day, I'm making this music, and we're making this music for you guys. And thank you.
So there you go. Possessed has a new album out, Revelations of Oblivion, on Nuclear Blast Records. They have upcoming tours. You can learn about all of that on their websites, on the Nuclear Blast site. And Jeff, as always, thank you so much for coming on the show, taking the time to tell us about the band and the album, and all the best to you and the guys out there.
Okay, DJ Jet, of course, we're friends in real life, and I will speak to you you on the fly. And thank you so much, man. I always have a good time.